Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1956's Please Murder Me, directed by Peter Godfrey. Please Murder Me is an appropriate title for this movie since that's exactly what I was thinking while I was watching it. There are few things in life more painful than watching excellent actors trying to breathe life into a script that was dead on arrival, particularly a script like this one. The plot is as follows. Attorney Craig Carlson, played by Raymond Burr, falls in love with Myra Leeds, played by Angela Lansbury, the wife of his best friend, who saved Carlson's life during World War II. Feeling honor-bound to tell his friend, Craig does so, and when Myra attempts to leave her husband, he allegedly attacks her and she shoots him to death. Craig then defends Myra in court, managing to get her off the hook for the murder by confessing during his summation that the man she was leaving for her husband is he himself. He then discovers, through a plot device so unbelievable that I found myself rewinding the movie to make sure I heard it correctly, that Myra is not in love with him either, but is actually in love with... I find I'm torn here. I should spoil this movie for you, because by doing so, I'll save you the 78 minutes it'll take you to watch it. Time you could spend doing something more constructive, such as pounding your thumb with a hammer. However, the unwritten law of direct movie hosting prevents me from doing that, even though the punishment couldn't possibly be worse than what I went through watching this movie. On the other hand, it's not fun walking through the Gobi Desert, but after you do, you can say, hey, I did that. Small comfort, I know, but you take comfort where you can find it. One of the major problems I have with this movie is the casting of Angela Lansbury as a femme fatale. Don't get me wrong, I have tremendous respect for her as an actress. If you've ever seen Gaslight or the original version of The Manchurian Candidate, or any of the other films she's been in, you know how wonderful an actress she is. But as a femme fatale? That's like casting Jerry Lewis's Hamlet, you know? Oh, hey, ho! The thing with the Scotland York, and I didn't know him. Why? I mean, come on. Another thing that bothers me about this is how Craig manages not only to successfully defend Myra, but also manages to keep his license to practice law after confessing that he was the one having an affair with her. Conflict of interest, anyone? You know, if you watch a lot of movies as I do, you'll notice several plot devices lifted from better films, like Craig reciting exposition into a tape recorder during the movie, an idea lifted wholesale from Billy Wilder's 1944 classic Double Indemnity. Now, Barbara Stanwyck, that was a femme fatale. Raymond William Stacey Burr was born on May 21st, 1917, in New Westminster, British Columbia, Canada. He traveled for much of his young life, finally settling in Vallejo, California, with his mother after his parents divorced. He worked as a ranch hand, a deputy sheriff, a photo salesman, and a lounge singer before being wounded in World War II. He made his acting debut in 1946 as San Quentin and appeared in 114 television and theatrical movies, in addition to 46 television shows, most notably as Perry Mason and later Ironsides. Although he often played a heavy in the movies he appeared in, such as Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, he was, in real life, a gentleman who enjoyed cooking and throwing intimate dinner parties. His hobby was raising orchids, and he actually created a strain which he named the Barbara Hale orchid after one of his co-stars on Perry Mason. He was also, by all accounts, a very generous man. When working with Errol Flynn on The Adventures of Don Juan, Flynn told him, if you die with $10 in your pocket, you haven't done a good job. Burr took the advice to heart and often shared his wealth with friends and charities. Raymond Burr died of liver cancer on September 12, 1993, at his ranch home in Sonoma, California. Angela Lansbury was born on October 16, 1925, in London, England. She appeared in 73 movies in a career that continues to this day, making her first appearance in and being nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for 1944's Gaslight. Although most people know her primarily for playing Jessica Fletcher in TV's Murder, She Wrote, she's had an extraordinarily rich career, playing a variety of roles from a maid to the incredibly wicked mother of Lawrence Harvey in 1962's The Manchurian Candidate, directed by John Frankenheimer. She gives an incredible performance in this movie, especially considering that at the time she was only 3 years older than the actor who played her son. By the way, if you want to see a great movie, I suggest you see The Manchurian Candidate. For God's sake, however, find a copy of the original, not the remake directed by Jonathan Demme. Demme is a very talented director, but the adaptation of George Axelrod's script destroyed the film. At least it did for me. Before I go on, I'm going to go off on a bit of a rant here about something that's really bugging me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. And that's Hollywood's sudden propensity for remaking either classic movies that don't need it, like the aforementioned film, or television shows, for God's sake. I mean, Bewitched? Come on! Just about every remake or adaptation I've seen, and I don't see many if I can avoid them, has either trashed the memory of a good movie or completely missed the point of the television show it's paying homage to. The Beverly Hillbillies, The Little Rascals, and in particular Car 54, Where Are You, are perfect examples of this. The Little Rascals and Car 54 are prime examples of truly funny, charming shows that were absolute classics, but you sure wouldn't be able to tell from the excrement cranked out by the studios. For example, one of the charms of The Little Rascals is that, for the most part, the kids appearing in them were real. The makers of the series, the Hal Roach Studios, took pains to downplay the camera and crew surrounding the kids and made as if the kids were just playing while they filmed, thereby avoiding the mugging and overacting that infected the remake. To be fair, if you point a camera in any kid's direction these days, they snap into acting mode, and getting them to seem real is just about impossible. But updating a classic story or series to make it more relevant is rarely ever a good idea, as it almost never works. This trend, in my opinion, highlights a bankruptcy of imagination in the movie business. I know the argument that the movie business is a business after all, but investors have to remember that they're dealing with something intangible: talent. As Brad Bird, the director of The Incredibles, put it, businessmen hate the film business because when you're making a widget, you can measure it. Here's the mold. It costs this much for ingredients. You put it on the line and you throw it out there. When you're doing a story, really doing a story, and not just repeating the last success, you're like, what the hell? This would be cool. Yeah, it sounds great. You're gambling. While there are untold millions to make, and make quickly, in the movie business, the fact of the matter is that it's an incredibly risky proposition, and there's no way to predict how well a movie will do. The bottom line mindset of the people that run the studios today prevent them from taking risks. They'd rather invest in a known quantity, hence the plethora of classic movie and TV remakes flooding the theaters today. There are two problems with this. The first one is the fact that in the pursuit of a sure profit, thousands of scripts are tossed in the garbage every week because they don't fit the parameter of what the studio wants. And the second is that, with rare exceptions, the movies that result from this thinking stink. Just once, I'd like to see a studio remake a movie that stunk to begin with, like this one, for example. At least that way it wouldn't sully the memory of a great film. Well, since this is a new season, I got a stack of movies waiting for me to watch them. Very few of them are much better than this one, but we actually have one or two actual classics waiting in the wings. Until then, sit back, relax, and prepare to understand the true meaning of the phrase, "Please murder me," right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema.